People leave managers, not the company. It is an established fact. But why? Why do people leave managers, not the company? In order to understand this, I have to go a level deeper to understand the role of a manager. What is the role of a manager? Planning, organizing, selecting, getting things done, getting heard and hearing its employee, but on top of everything else, its job is to communicate well. Its job is to kill all sort of miscommunication between the company, which means the management, and its employee. How well do you do that? So in order to understand what is at the stake, you'd understand the role of a manager is smaller than its responsibility. Responsibility is huge. You can be the reason of big hiring and firing, and you can be the reason of greatest retention. Who are you? What kind of manager are you? Are you stuck in between somewhere? You don't know what to do. You do want to solve this riddle. Stay tuned with me. Today I'll tell you some of the greatest toolkit, public speaking toolkit, what makes a manager not just heard, not just loved, adored, but one that everybody looks up to. Stay tuned and watch the entire video. I've trained several managers and I've still been training few of them. There is one common problem that is brought by most of them, and that is, despite me being great at my work, I'm not able to climb the ladder. I'm not able to move ahead. I'm not able to be the one who's adored, loved. What should I do? I try to communicate. Yes, I do hesitate. I try to avoid that part and I try to focus on my work. Well, that's where the problem is. Your role as a manager is bigger than its size. So as James Hume said once, American author and a lawyer, he said that every time you have to speak, you're auditioning for leadership. Do you want to audition for leadership? You gotta speak, man. And that's what is trained in a very first day to most of these managers. So today, in this public speaking toolkit, I'm going to bring some of the ideas that I have discussed previously and I still discuss in my classroom of becoming the manager who is the need of the hour, becoming the manager who is loved, adored by its employee. Let's begin. One of my friends joined her previous organization back again after a couple of years of sabbatical. I was surprised. I was like, come on, man, why can't you go for a change? Just try some other organization. You have worked in that company for 5-6 years already. Look for change. She reluctantly said, I wanted to, but I can't. I was like, why? She said, my manager adores me. She adores me. She would not let me go. I was surprised, but I also was curious. I said, how and what makes you think she adores you? She said, well, she makes sure that she always highlights my good point. She always highlighted throughout the 5-6 years of my journey with the company what I was good at, how can I make it better, which means the feedback loop. So that's the first tip today. Keep the feedback loop open. But what kind of feedback? Constructive or destructive? What does your feedback do to people? Do they give them aim, a goal, or they just ramble? Let me tell you how to give an effective feedback. An effective feedback equals to constructive feedback. Now, before you understand what is constructive feedback, let me tell you this. Most of the managers are hated because of their ability or inability to give constructive feedback, and they end up giving destructive feedback on a daily basis. Now, how does destructive feedback sound like? It's like, you're bad at this, you couldn't do that, you did not meet the deadline, leave it, it's out of your league, blah, blah, blah. That's destructive feedback. What do I mean by constructive feedback now? And why it is important? Well, in order to retain the morale in the employee, you ought to be practicing constructive feedback. So here is the strategy. Strategy says, start with what? What is the problem? Or what went right? And then you go on by saying, what is its impact? Which means, so what? If you did good, it is impacting the overall growth of the organization or the project, or we could meet the deadline. how and what manner it has impacted something. And then, now what? Don't just become so complacent that, okay, this is it, nothing more. Always give a direction. What is next? What can you do? Well done. You did a good job. Now you impacted the overall growth of the organization. Now I would expect you to be using the same brain, using the same ability to do creative work for this project, because I have big faith and hope from you. Or even if you're giving it for something that you want it to be improved, follow the same strategy. What? So what? Now what? What is the problem? What you did not do or what you did that has a bad impact? Then so what? Again, the impact of it. And then say, now what? Do you want him to improve? Do you want her to improve? Give her a direction. Well, you did not meet the deadline. Why? Because you wanted to do it alone, but it has impacted the overall image, the goodwill of our team, man. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna be having few more people in your project to work together. Take help, reach out to me, I will help you. That's how the constructive feedback sound like. I hope you understand this, and I hope from today itself, if you are a manager, you're going to practice constructive feedback and get at least, if not loved, but liked by your people. Find your authentic voice. Yes, it's very important as a manager you find your authentic voice. Yes, you can take inspiration from some good managers in the past or from your previous organization, but it is important, however, to find your authentic voice. One of my students, Neha, she once mentioned that, my manager was hilarious. He knew how to entertain everybody. He knew how to keep everybody on the toes. However, don't let them feel worked up. So I wanted to be like him. So what I did rather is I tried to walk on his footsteps, but I failed miserably. What went wrong with me? How could I not do what he could do? Well, you can take inspiration from people, but you cannot copy them. You cannot imitate them. You will fail. It's not one-day job, it's everyday job. Looking after the operation, getting things done, keeping the morale high of the employee, inspiring them, motivating them, it's not one-day job. It needs so much more than imitation from good managers. So find your authentic voice. What you are good at. You like to informally sit around the table and talk and discuss in a team, or you like to have individual conversation. So you call people in a cubicle and you talk. Sure, you do take care of time, but you do it the way you want to do it, the way you don't feel just comfortable, what is good for people, what is good for morale and the work as a whole. Find your authentic voice. Even if a manager in the past has shown the tremendous growth in the organization because of his ability to entertain, does not mean that you need to replicate it. If you're good at in some other way, your style is different, use your style to flourish and keep the people happy. So many managers, just to sound professional, they believe I gotta speak always in English, I gotta always speak fancy words, I gotta speak all those jargons, those phrases which are industry based, and they fail miserably. Why? Because you speak the way you think it is right. Whatever you think is going to be creating great impact. Well, you're not a keynote speaker, man. You're a manager. Your job is to look after, not to be looked at. So to do that effectively, to sound professional, you ought to be making sure that you use the language that everybody understands. You know your people, you know what language they are comfortable in, you know what is their level of understanding in any language, hence you choose your words, sentences, phrases and simplify it. Do not get entrapped in the language game. Come out of it. Secret to change is to put all your energy in building the new, not to fight the old, said Socrates. Now, what do I mean by fighting the old? Well, even if you think there are areas of your concern in your communication, let's say you fear, addressing 4, 5, 6 people in one go, or you get trapped into complex ideas and you sort of, create chuck review for yourself, you dump into, and then you don't know how to come out of it. So in order to solve all these problems, if you keep fighting, you ain't gonna come out of it. So what you should rather do is to build a new one. If you're not able to describe the complex ideas in the words, take the help of images. Use the power of amygdala. create scene, use people voluntarily, and then explain them. Don't fight the old, build the new. Do you know what makes a manager click? Strategy. That strategy is called praise in public, criticize alone. Whenever you want to criticize the people of your team, call them in a cubicle and talk it off. Give them direction. Whenever you want to praise it, don't call them in cubicle. Go public in front of entire team. Praise them. Because any idea or any creativity that is praised in public is repeated very often than not, and that amplifies the success of manager. Communicate well, but communicate alone when it is criticism, and communicate in public when it is praise or goodwill. A great manager knows that the job lies between the support and authority. A good manager has to be supportive at the same time authoritative. How to do both? How to be ordering at the same time helping? How do you do that? In order to do this effectively, you need to cut the dichotomy. You need to combine the idea of body language and the language, which means the words and your body. How do you do that? You stand and talk? Yes. You stand and talk to show authority, but you reach out to people to show support. You take their questions, but at the same time, you do tell them with your body language that I need it to be done. So use this, sort of get in between the body language to show the authority, words to show the support. You will flourish like anything. There's a difference between political leader and a manager, and the difference is political leaders have to make monologue, big dreamy speeches, whereas a manager has to make a presentation, points to prove. How do you do that? In order to be a good manager and communicate your ideas well, you have to stop delivering a monologue like a politician, like a political leader. You ought to be a communicator. You make a conversation. How do you make conversation through your words? Well, you form small sentences, short sentences, you take questions, and hell lot of questions you ought to have in your talk. You would be taking a lot of, you would be having a lot of close-ended questions, several open-ended questions, and communicate. Do not just speak, deliver a monologue, but ask them. Ask your people, ask your team member, how do they feel about it? Don't deliver monologue. Cut it right away. Be a conversationalist. This is the most important skill set for any manager or anybody to succeed at work, and one of my favorite. I always believe if you can be a conversationalist, you can truly win the world. And with that note, I'm going to leave this video to you. If you liked the ideas, use it in your own life. At least try to imbibe few of them and see the magic compounding over the period of time. If you think somebody else can benefit from this video, do share with them and stay tuned with this channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe it now, like, comment, let the conversation going in the comment section below so that I would know what is it that you want next. You want me to make any particular video? You want to learn some skill set that I have been training for last 11 years to all these people in the world? Do let me know in the comment section.